Hello! Here I am in all of my glory. It's not glory. Something I want to go over. For people that can be a bit of a struggle at times when attempting to read music, especially piano music when you have to read a massive amount of information all at the same time. And that is, how do we read notes that are way up here, really high? How do we do that? Okay. Quickly. How do we do it quickly? Before I get into that, I will say, it is okay, no matter how good you are, no matter how professional you are, how experienced you are, it is okay to take your time and sit here and look at that note and count each ledger line to try to figure out where it is on the piano. That is totally fine. But I'm going to say it's probably not okay to do that same process all the time with notes that are super close to the staff like this one, or even this one. So I'm going to share with you a couple things that I say during my private piano lessons to people a lot that I think helps when it comes to reading music really high up, on the staff, okay? The two things are, and they're kind of the same, number one, which is two things, okay? Number one, if it goes up on the staff, it goes up on the keyboard. And if it goes down on the staff, it goes down on the keyboard. Music notation is quite literally a written down representation of the music that we are supposed to be playing. The same patterns and distances that are on the keyboard, for example, going from here to here, or from here to here, or from here all the way down to here, those same distances and relationships are going to be able to be represented in sheet music. So it stands to reason that the relationships and movement on the staff is going to correspond to the movement on the keyboard. When a professional, very experienced musician reads music, they aren't going to typically, now this isn't always the case, but they aren't typically going to be sitting here and looking at this and thinking, okay, what note is that? That must be a D. Okay, so that's a D. Let's play a D. Okay. Then they're like, no, that's not a D. Oh gosh, I messed that up. Oh, it's not a D. What is it? It's a B. Yes. They're not going to be going through that process. There's nothing wrong with that process. But I want people to be able to get to a point where they can read music fluently enough where they're not thinking about what the note is before they play it. They're thinking about where their hand should go. When I look at this, I do not think note names in my head before playing it. My hand just knows where to go. And one issue that I ran into before I got back into music education this time, one issue that I had was I was so used to not thinking about the note names that when I started teaching piano again, I actually would look at a note and think, oh, wait a minute. Wait, what? Ah, yes, of course. That's a B. So if it goes up on the staff, it goes up on the keyboard. If it goes down on the staff, it goes down on the keyboard. That's the first thing. Next, the thing that I want people to do is really take a look at music and notice the distances in the jumps between the notes, okay? What we can do is this. Just give me a second to put in some more notes here. I would recommend finding a pitch above the staff, and everything that I'm saying right now works for stuff really below the staff as well. I would recommend finding a pitch that is above the staff and below the staff and just memorizing what it is. Here, if you just understand that when we have those two ledger lines right there, that is a C and that is always going to be a C, and then we understand if it goes up on the page, it goes up on the keyboard, and familiarize ourselves with those jumps or those interval changes, reading music very, very high on the staff is going to become easier. But again, like I said, it is okay when it's literally this all the way up there. It's okay to take a break and count it out, but memorize what these are. Just pick a target note and memorize what it is. It's going to be pretty unusual for most people to be playing music that is written this high. It does happen. However, when I write things down that I want that ridiculously high on the keyboard, and what most music publishers are going to do is instead put an 8 VA marking to indicate that should be an octave higher. So don't stress yourself out over these things up here. Pick a target note and think, how does this next note change in relation to our first one? It moves up. How many? Well, it's right next to each other, so it must move up one, okay? There's our starting note, and then it must move up one. Okay. How does this note move from where we are currently? Oops. They're right next to each other, so they must be right next to each other on the keyboard. Okay. How does this note move? Where we're going to where we are now? Well, right next to each other on the keyboard. Okay. Same thing goes for going down. Recognize and memorize that is an A. And it's going to be a lot easier to do these things. It's going to generally be more common for the viewership that I have on YouTube and for the students that I have with the type of music that they like. It's going to be much more common that you're going to see music written below the treble staff than you are above the treble staff. And it's going to be much more likely that you're going to see music written above the bass clef staff than it is that you're going to see it written far below. Okay? Let's delete this. Now, give me one moment to think. Let me see, do I have file? I know you can't see what I'm doing, right? I know it looks like I'm like scrolling through and clicking through nothing, but this is not the case. See if this works. It does not. Very nice. Never mind. I was gonna do something. It's not necessary. Okay. The point is, always pay attention to how notes move. Don't stress yourself out about trying to read the individual letter, because here's the thing. If you're reading some crazy advanced piece of music with, like for example, if you're trying to play the Rhapsody in Blue, by the time you get to that point, you're not necessarily going to be doing this anyway, but you cannot look at pieces of information like that and spend 20 minutes trying to figure out what each note is. Have target notes that you can reference and compare the notes that you don't know to how they move from the note that you do know. And you will find that your music reading, sight playing will improve. This isn't an overnight thing. This isn't a magical wave of the magic wand type thing where I say these words and it just works. This is something you have to practice. Hand-in exercises, which are controversial. I sometimes assign them and I sometimes don't. But hand-in exercises can be really excellent for recognizing how jumps happen. When you're playing them, you don't need to actually consciously pay attention to how they change. Let me put on these headphones. You don't need to constantly think, okay, what is that jump? Just play the exercise, and over time, you will naturally start recognizing these interval changes. Okay? So that is what I recommend. If you don't like it, that's okay. One of the things that I recognize is there are many, 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 many ways to teach the same thing. This is how I do it. That does not invalidate other teachers if they say something completely contrary to what I'm saying right now. This is just how I view it. I am familiar with the other ways of teaching the same thing, and I have personally found a lot of success with this style of teaching. It does assume that the student knows already what the basic notes on the staff are, what the notes on the piano keyboard are. This certainly isn't going to be for an absolute beginner, but it can help those who struggle with reading far above or below the staff. Find a target note that you constantly know what it is, and compare the notes that you don't know to how it relates to the note that you do. Okay? So that, ladies and gentlemen, is my piece for today. The more you know. Let's be jazzy about it before. Thanks for watching.